What's up, everybody? Today is the day. My first ever Final Verdict review. Now, this is going to be a loose formatted video. I was going to use scripts, but I decided to just give you the raw, uncut reviews instead, because I felt like the script sounded inauthentic. I do have some of my thoughts written down, so I can just remember what I thought about each game. There was 14 of them after all. But I played through, what I did here was I played through every PS Plus Extra game that dropped in August 2023. As you may know, the prices for PS Plus just went up for every tier. So I thought now would be a good time to really take a look at the catalog and the new games that are dropping and let you know which ones are good, which ones are bad, and just overall if PS Plus Extra is worth the extra money. So with that being said, we're going to jump right into it. So I wanted to give you an in-depth look at these games beyond just the game trailers and the Metacritic reviews and just going, oh, good month, bad month. So I actually played through all these games. That was not easy for some of them. Some of them was easier than others. But right here, we're going to go through the value of the game, the price basically. Without the subscription, we're going to go through the playtime. We've been throwing platinum time in there for those trophy hunters out there, and just the quality of the game in general. But that's not all we're going to be looking at, because it's more than just the quality of the game. That is a big part, but for example, if the game is super good but it lasts like 2 hours, that might not be worth paying for a month subscription. Same thing if the game is like $3 as opposed to like the $100, $130 PS Plus Extra subscription. Now that is for the year, so that may not be an issue, but you know, if the games are super short, it might just be better to buy them outright. So we're gonna look at all that. Okay, enough rambling, enough intro. Let's get into this first game. This first game is Dreams. Now, Dreams is a really good game. It is just a bunch of player generated content, so the quality of what you're playing is really going to depend on who made the thing. This is actually a backrooms game in Dreams that I found. I did seen some errors in this, and that's kind of common. I'm not picking on this creator, but that's kind of common in Dreams because they are just made by regular people. But the game itself is actually pretty cool. It's pretty interesting. You're just walking around the back rooms, I mean, and you got the monster or whatever. I don't really know that much about back rooms, but anyway, so this game is very Outlast-like, but we're not talking about this back rooms game. We're talking about Dreams as a whole. So Dreams, you got all kinds of stuff. You got a hub where you can decorate your own hub. You got challenges. You got people can make music games where you just listen to music and chill out. I saw Super Mario Brothers in there. In this game, I totally did not get scared here and get stuck on the door. But, you know, that's another story. Anyway, so, I mean, Dreams overall, it's a really good game, but the thing I'm going to say about it is it already dropped for free as part of the Essentials tier, like not that long ago. I think it was like 2 months ago. So really, this is just a duplicate free game if you had Essentials. If you didn't, you'd probably be happy to see it in here and have a really good time with it. But for most people, I think, who already subscribed to Essential and are looking to upgrade to Extra, I don't think this is going to be a welcome addition. It's just taking up a spot. So why the game quality, and this is a good example of what I'm talking about here, of whether Extra is worth it or not. Because the game quality is great, but overall I'm going to give this one a thumbs down simply because, I mean, it already showed up, so it's not worth the extra money. Also, a few other things you got to think about is the playtime is really going to depend on how much time you want to put in playing random content. The game itself, outside of the user-generated content, is only like 2.5 hours. Now for the platinum, you're looking at like 30 plus hours, 65.5 for 100% completion. And that might not be a bad thing. You might want something like that for this kind of game. A reason to play through a whole bunch of different stuff. However, the servers are going to be shutting down soon. so you won't get any new content or an active community. You're just gonna be playing a backlog of user-generated content. So for all those reasons, I'm sorry, Dreams. I love you, but and there's some booty right there, but I'm gonna have to give you a thumbs down for that reason. Alright, up next, we got Source of Madness. Now, this game was actually the most liked gameplay video I put up on YouTube with a grand total of 4 likes. So obviously this has wide fan appeal. Basically, you got another roguelike game. This time you got some horror elements though. And you know, what do I say about this game? So basically, just like any rogue game, you got a hub before you go out into the world and start your run. Then you got all these stats that you got to keep track of, but that's not too big of a deal. It is kind of small on the screen. You got all these equipment. I was like, what the heck does each of these things do? It took me a minute to figure out that they actually change your attack pattern, which is kind of cool. But then you get out here into the fights and it's just like a chunk of flesh. All the enemies kind of look the same, just a different amalgamation of indistinguishable flesh. And then you just kind of mash the attack button, and you can't even really tell like when you're gonna get hit because it's not touch to get hit. It's like certain limbs. I think it's the one that light up is the ones that you gotta watch out for. Also, I didn't know that there's an R2 and an L2 attack, I believe was the buttons, but there's 2 different attacks you can have on at once. So I was just using one for a while. The game didn't really tell me, but look, you got this thing just kind of like swinging itself around, like lobbing itself around the map. It doesn't really have a distinguishable animation pattern, or just kind of throwing itself around the map, waiting for the limb to hit you. So that's not really the greatest thing ever. However, I did find myself wanting to come back and play this game, if not just to get stronger and to beat it and see what was next. So, I mean, I think that's a good sign that there's some fun to be had with this game. One thing I will say against it though is there's random AI art just kind of thrown in there. And I'm not knocking it for using AI art because, you know, you've all been there, ChatGPT. But, I mean, it doesn't really have a place. It's just kind of randomly thrown in there. It doesn't have any significance or narrative purpose as far as I can tell. So, I mean, I don't know, man. It might just be better to get someone to, you know, just leave it out or like have a reason for it. I mean, it's just kind of like random squiggles, squiggly image. So now there is difficulty settings, so there is some challenge there if that's your cup of tea. I did try a run on Nightmare off the rip, and I got blasted, very humbled. Now I didn't really know how to play at the time, so that was not the smartest thing I've ever done. I didn't even know there was 2 attack buttons, so I was not prepared for that. I did go back to normal, and it actually got kind of easy once you figure out how to spam. Now that's not everybody's way of playing, but it is there, so I mean you can cheese it if you're just trying to get through and enjoy the atmosphere or the bosses or whatever. I mean, it's kind of hard if it's like built in. I mean, I don't know, to just avoid using the game's mechanics. Now there is an extensive upgrade tree, which you're always looking for in a roguelike game. I didn't really understand what the rings and stuff did. They do have all these stat values, but like what is nature damage? It's just something you're gonna have to like research, look through to see what stuff does. I mean, you just figure it out as you play, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. You don't really want too much hand holding. But yeah, and then one thing I will say is that you can't really tell how much material you're getting from certain creatures unless you're like watching the number, which is extremely small on the HUD. Now there is multiple areas to explore. It's not just the first one you start in. I mean, that is kind of basic, like need to have for a rogue game, or really any game. But I mean, there is some variety there. But you're really looking at like a main story of about 3 hours. It's going to be heavily skill dependent though. I mean, if you get stuck and you can't complete the run, then it's going to take as long as it takes. If you try to do everything, maybe like 15 and a half hours, 38 hours, you're going for 100%. But I mean, there's stuff here to have fun if you just want to pick it up. Super easy to pick up, very approachable since it is kind of easy. Here was the first boss, first enemy that actually has a unique look besides just a chunk of flesh. But again, it was like super easy. I mean, you have a health potion too, so even though it looks like I got a little low on health here, I just healed up and beat him first try. It wasn't no big deal. Now, if you bought this game outright, it would be running about 20 bucks. The subscription for extra for a month is $14.99, $15. If you go for the whole year though, you're looking at like $130, $140, I believe. So, I mean, if you only get this game, if you only want this game, you could subscribe and beat it in the month and then, you know, not renew your subscription, but you'd have to really, really want this game. And I don't think this game is that good by any means to warrant you to just rent it for a month and try to bust it out for $15 and save yourself $5. So I don't think it's worth doing that, but if you are going to go for the whole catalog of August, it is there. It'll break up the, you know, monotony of the other games. If you get bored of those or just need a break, you can easily jump into this. You know, it's very approachable. So honestly, for this game, I'm actually going to give it a thumbs up for that reason. That and there is some fun to be had here, especially if you like road games, which I do, exposing my bias a little bit. But yeah, like I said, you're gonna beat it and you're gonna have time to play the other games for that month. So finally, it looks like we got ourselves a thumbs up. Next up, we have Lost Judgment. Now, this game is gonna take you about 23 hours if you go mission to mission. If you're looking for 100% completion, it's gonna take you more like 102 hours. So this game is gonna eat up all your time for this month, most likely. So that wouldn't really be worth going for a month. Now, the game is 60 bucks, so you would get your value price-wise, and that would be worth it. Now, this is another popular story-based title. It's flashy, it's got weird missions and mechanics. I swear, every Japanese game has photo missions. Now, there's a lot of dialogue, a lot of back and forth. It's very true to the JRPG in that way. The prologue and tutorial lasted over an hour, so that's the density you need to prepare yourself for if you're going to pick this up. This game is very dense, but it's still simple enough to be palatable. There's so much to do and collect, but thankfully you're in a vibrant city instead of the typical vast nothingness that comes with massive open world titles. I mean, it's basically LA Noire but with Yakuza. Either way, this game holds my interest and itches the completionist in me enough to carry me through to the end. It's good, but is it worth the time working in the fields just to come home and work at this game? Because that's what it's going to take to complete everything. Overall, I'm going to give this one a thumbs up because I think it's fun enough and has wide enough appeal that having access to this game would be worth it. It's also going to last you a while, so you'll get your money's worth in terms of playtime. Alright, so far so good. Looks like we got 2 thumbs up and 1 thumbs down. Next up, we got Spellforce. Spellforce is a top-down battle simulator strategy game. And let me just tell you, this game makes Lost Judgment look like PJ Masks in terms of its complexity and density. Right off the rip, you open the game and are bombarded with menus and tutorial boxes, with the smallest font size that the game engine would allow for all of it. Wing spear one-handed, uncommon, scaling attribute, dexterity, damage 97, 104, damage type arrows, attack per second 38, crit chance 7, block chance 2, after landing a critical hit on cast on target, apply bleeding 2. Move the camera up, down, left, right, zoom in and out with the up and down with the right stick. You found some loot, press triangle on the loot to then either select a single Sword, drop the item. I mean, the game just continues to run in the background while you try to learn the Mortal Kombat input that's gonna open the menu you need to spend your skill points. But look at these circles in this menu. There's almost nothing to distinguish them from each other. Everything just looks the same. The color tones, the icons, it all blends in. There's like 20 different options. If you're playing on PC or a monitor, maybe it's easier to see, but you're gonna need to mush your face into the TV if you're on console. Once you get past the tutorial and spend most of it waiting for your troops to move to the part of the map where you put your cursor, you're trolled with this super cool cutscene. It's almost certainly just some game trailer footage of a game that you actually want to play before it plops you right back into the actual game. This game is definitely niche, and for some I have no doubt that this is exactly what they're looking for. A battle strategy game needs some complexity after all, but this game is just not going to be approachable for the average player. At least not enough to be an enjoyable learning curve, and for that reason this game is getting a thumbs down. Next up we have Moving Out 2. Moving Out 2 is a cute, fun, and cozy game that reminds you how much better life could be if you had friends to play couch co-op games with. Basically, you move boxes around the whole game. You try to pack them all in the truck before the time limit and navigate these bulky items through the environment. They do have challenges after you complete a level, so there's reason to replay levels. They also have multiple worlds to visit, which mixes things up. If you play by yourself, you'll definitely miss out on some of the magic, like timing your throw with your partner and chucking a sofa out the window. But the game is still fun and super easy to pick up. This is a good addition to Extra. It's simple, it's cozy, and it has a wide appeal and a low barrier for entry, without completely taking away the challenge, so I definitely give this one a thumbs up. Now onto Lawn Mowing Simulator. Next up, we have Destroy All Humans 2. Alright, Lawn Mowing Simulator needs a review. Remember, I played all these games, the good and the bad, so I could give you this review. If you like it so far, please consider subscribing. Lawnmower Simulator is extremely niche. Not only is it a simulator, but it's lawn mowing. Something that has a thriving industry because people would rather pay someone else to do this for them. So obviously someone had the bright idea to take that and turn it into a game. I know there are already going to be people in my comments saying that lawn mowing is relaxing, and if that's how you feel, then this game is for you. However, I suggest that instead of paying to do this digitally, you go outside and do it in real life, or at least charge people and make some money off of it. This game is the embodiment of the phrase touch grass. I'm looking through this game and see challenge lawns that take 42 minutes plus for one single lawn. Maybe it's just me, but that seems excessive. Playing through this game was mind-numbing and had me constantly looking at the clock waiting for it to be over. And YouTube literally flagged the gameplay of this game as copyright. Like, bro, it's lawn mowing. You gonna copyright taking a dump next? Wouldn't want people copying the way you drive in circles. I promise you that neither me nor your company will be making money off this game or its footage. The game is pretty at least, but I have a suspicion most people are skipping over this one. Thumbs down. Alright, now we're on to Destroy All Humans 2. This game takes us back to the formula for video games. We got some heavy nostalgia here from the PS2, Destroy All Humans. And that's pretty much all it is. It's fun, though albeit a little slow when it comes to the dialogue exchanges. Thankfully they throw in jokes for most of them to break up the monotony. This game also has a co-op story as well as mini games and a battle mode, which is a big plus. Even with the difficulty maxed, you probably won't be getting much of a challenge. Really, you're relying heavily on the joy of using tons of unique alien weapons to blow stuff up, and progressing through the story, upgrading to get stronger. I'll admit they do use some cheat tricks to keep your attention, but hey, if it's between that and staring at grass clippings for 6 hours, I know which one I'm choosing. There's open world, there's collectibles, there's multiple areas to explore all over the globe. It's not gonna blow your socks off or anything, but it's not gonna make you quit gaming either. I guess that's the definition of mid. Either way, thumbs up. Alright, now we have Hospital Simulator. Technically, I think it's called 2 Point Hospital. 2 simulators in 1 month. So if my bias wasn't clear already, I'm not the biggest fan of simulators. So to give this a fair shake, I'm going to compare it to Lawn Mowing Simulator. The bar has been set. What this game gives up in graphics, it adds in being more palatable. It still has that slow hurry up and wait feel, but it's got a radio channel with some goofy announcers thrown in to take your mind off the work you're doing.
My therapist says I need to relax more. Find a hobby. If you have any suggestions, please send them in. I'll keep you posted on how my search goes. Anything's better than my last hobby. Collecting traffic cones.
You're also managing a hospital, which is probably not the #1 fantasy fulfillment item on the list for most people, but it certainly is less obtainable in real life than mowing a lawn, and so it makes more sense to have a video game about it. You can speed things up or slow things down at your leisure, so you can speed up the slow parts and slow down enough to still think. I'm still gonna have to give it a thumbs down, however, because at the end of the day, if you got 14 new games this month alone in the extra catalog, if you get into this game, it's going to eat up most of your time, and the other games are going to get lost in the background. Next up, we have PJ Masks. I have a hard time reviewing this game because clearly this game was not made with me in mind. The gameplay video for this game was the most viewed gameplay footage on my channel, so obviously it has some appeal, right? Right? It's basically an episodic platformer that always ends like the end of a cartoon episode, in which the cat one always runs super fast, while the other two at least mix it up in terms of what powers they use. Gecko is objectively the best power-wise, fight me on this. It's very repetitive, but it's short and an easy platinum trophy, but it really holds your hand in a way you'd expect a kid's game too, and it's stupidly easy. I don't think kids are paying for an extra subscription, so really this is for adult gamers with kids who want to slap their kid down in front of the game so that they themselves can play their own grown-up games. However, I don't think this is going to hold the attention of a kid any longer than the Cartoon Network, so really it's just taking a slot that another game could fill. Thumbs down. Alright, next up we have Curse to Golf. And Curse to Golf is really the sweet spot. It's like a mini golf game mixed with rogue elements and cute cozy gameplay. It's one of my personal favorites in this list. You start with a quick tutorial and then you're thrown right into the underworld for a wild ride of golfing through crazy obstacles, just like a mini golf game. You choose your path, open card packs or power-ups, and face off against golf bosses with special abilities. I mean, there's really not much bad to say about this game. It is only 9 hours, so maybe it's a little on the short side, but it's going to be skill dependent as well. For 20 bucks, you could just buy this game outright over the subscription, but since it's a little short, it's probably more worth it to buy the whole subscription, have a blast with it, and move on to one of the other titles you're interested in. Big thumbs up on this one. Alright, now on to the favorite choice of the internet, Sea of Stars. I mean, here's the game that everyone has their panties in a twist over. Sea of Stars is another classic JRPG, but this time you've got turn-based elements and a top-down retro feel. It's another cute and cozy game with great music and visuals. There is a lot of reading, as expected from the JRPG genre, so it's going to take you a while to get into the meat of the game. However, once you do, it offers exploration, unique environments, enemies, and a decent story. Coming in at about 25 hours to 30 hours, this is right around the sweet spot in terms of runtime. And for a $35 price tag, it would be much more worth it to play as part of the subscription. It won't take up too much of your time, but it won't be over too quick either. Pair this up with Curse to Golf and watch your stress levels drop. This game is pretty and wonderful. It deserves the attention it gets. Another big thumbs up for this one. Alright, here we have Hotel Transylvania. Now this is another kids game, and again we run into the same issue as we did with PJ Masks. I'm not the target audience, but what I can say is that this game feels a little bland. It's got a bigger scale compared to PJ Masks, coming in at about 5 hours. and it adds just a little in terms of complexity, but honestly the game probably would have been better dropping in October for Halloween. There's definitely a market for Halloween games, and I think it would have got a bump from that. However, it is just a basic kids game with a super fast camera and some clunky movement. You can also spend a lot of time hitting random small plants in each level trying to get all the coins, since that is calculated at the end of a level. So at 5 hours and a $20 price tag, it'd be cheaper to plop your kids in front of a movie or two rather than this game. And you're going to need to be careful about the age range as well, as I feel kids on the younger side may struggle a little bit more with this one in terms of skill compared to something like PJ. I'm going to ultimately give this one a thumbs down. It's not worth having in your subscription. It's not horrible, but it's just missing the mark. Alright, finally we have Midnight Fight. Midnight Fight is a fast-paced arcade beat-em-up. It's basically a music video game for heavy metal and club beats. You run through the levels and button mash, getting a high score and throwing caution to the wind as you wreck shop on everything and everyone. A big negative is your score is partially based on your time, which does stop some dialogue exchanges but not for others. So you're sitting there trying to read the jokes or narratives from the drone and everything's still running in the background. Or it just disappears when you move on too far or too fast. But it's still a fun game. It's still got some heart pumping, get your anger out on that X button. So for that I'm giving it a thumbs up as well. So here we are at the end, and you may have noticed that there was one game I did not cover, and that was the Destiny 2 expansion. Supposedly dropped on PS Plus Extra. I even saw it on there, but when I went to go play it, it was no longer on the service. I searched it in the store and it was only available for purchase. That being said, the full game, Destiny, is free to play, so really you don't need an expansion unless you're just really into Destiny and are just craving more of it. It's officially announced as a PS Plus Extra game, but since it's either buggy or was just removed super quickly after dropping, I have to give it a thumbs down as well. After all, it is an add-on, and while it may be good, I don't believe having an add-on DLC for a free-to-play game as one of your subscription offerings to be the most valuable offering for this service. In total, we had 7 thumbs up and 7 thumbs down, meaning August was basically a wash. But I don't want to leave you without a definitive answer, so let's tally up the thumbs up prices and run times. In total, if you subscribed only to play the thumbs up games, the total price tag on all the items would be $225. And the total playtime to get through the main portion only of all these games would be 84 hours. That equals out to 21 hours a week of game time for either $15 for 1 month of extra or $135 for the whole year. Either way, even with the price increase, you're still getting more in terms of price and in playtime. Now, if owning the games is a sticking point for you, that may change whether the subscription feels worth it. But if you're just looking to play through a few good to great games with an extra 21 hours of free time per week, I mean, then there's more than enough here for you. If anything, there's almost too much and you'll be forced to pick and choose and forgo completion to move on to the next game before the next month arrives. That could be an issue for you as well. Personally, I struggle with that. But the final verdict is that yes, extra is worth it, this month at least, even with the increase. We'll see how September shakes out. Maybe that changes things. This is only the first month after all. Well, that's it for this video. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you want to see more, stay tuned for September where I'll be going through it all again. Unless of course nobody watches this. See you next time.